Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are here with Austin from Ohio, and today is Monday, September 27th, 2021. I hope that you're all doing well, as well as you can be doing in a time like this. I mean, a lot's going on. We're seeing it all around us, everything being set up, and honestly, what they're trying to do right now is, well, squeeze us. And I intend to prove that to you today. So, we all know about the shortages in the UK. We know about the fuel shortages, the food shortages here, just everywhere. And think about just things like this first one. New York may deploy thousands of National Guard troops to replace hospital workers being fired for refusing C mandate. And yeah, so in Massachusetts, we have the National Guard, being, good Americans that they are. They're driving school buses for children, which, that's their cover, of course. So when people see troops in school buses like we saw last year, they'll think that they're transporting children, even though that's not what they would be doing. Sure, others, the National Guard, they might be transporting children to schools, but other military personnel will be driving other buses under the cover of this. That's the first thing that I could think of anyway, knowing how these people work and their tactics. New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced Monday that she would deploy the National Guard to support New York healthcare facilities in the event that a worker shortage occurs after the C-19 mandate kicks in for all hospitals Monday night. We'll be nation leading with our mandate, which strikes at midnight tonight, when everyone is expected in a hospital in the state of New York or a healthcare facility to have been vaccinated. Governor Hochul said, "I will be signing an executive order to give me the emergency powers necessary to address the shortages where they occur, and that's going to allow me to deploy the National Guard, who are medically trained. Deploy people who are retired, who've had license lapse, bring in people from elsewhere." So, again, where have we seen, I'm going to give myself the emergency powers necessary to combat this? It's just more and more. And that's what we see every single day with any one of these people. Governors, even on a small scale, police, anybody. Quote, "That is not my first position, though, my friends," she continued. "My desire is to have people who have been out there continue to work in their jobs, work in them safely, and all other healthcare workers who are vaccinated. They also deserve to know that the people they're working with will not get them sick." In August, New York State Health Department issued the mandate order requiring all hospital workers to be fully vaccinated by September 27th. So, today. I think that might be the end of this one. Well, we don't have to keep going on all the way down here. That's pretty much just it on this first one. So, every single place is going to require some form of policy, you could say. And what this is going to do is this also sets a precedent. So whenever other places in other states around the country might be doing this sort of thing, or for other reasons, they might use troops, because people are quitting jobs. Oh, well, these people quit at this coal plant, and we're going to have to put the military there to take it over for, work there, to ensure the security of the coal plant. I could see this as easily used as a reason to do a lot of shady things. And I know I'm not alone in that thought, because this is the kind of thing that they're doing. And it's starting to get real out there. I mean, there's reports all over the place of people, being fired. People are uploading videos in tears because they just got fired. They don't know what they're going to do, but they need to stand their ground, which is a good thing. We need to be doing that. But we should also be ready to face whatever backlash or consequences might come with that. If not, then at some point in time, you might cave. And I hope nobody does that. Moving on. Here we are over at NBC News, our pals over at NBC. Vaccine mandates for travel are legal in the U.S., and more are probably coming. And, they're not wrong because they made it legal. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right. Vaccine mandates trickled into the U.S. travel sphere last winter, picked up steam in the spring and hit fever pitch over the summer. Oh yeah, making it sound all fun and, giving it fun little... No. This is part of an agenda. It's written in the book by Klaus Schwab that everybody should still be referring to at some point in time. C-19, the Great Reset. That's part of the reset. To use this as a form of, ultra identification with everything combined into a digital identity. Your driver's license, if you even have a driver's license, you probably won't even own a car at this point in time. Your hospital stuff. They open the door with the hospital, but they're gonna incorporate everything else into it. I mean, you just have to think about it like that, because why do you think all these companies are always interconnected? And they got the same parent and grandparent companies. Vaccine shots are now necessary to eat in cafes in France, to see a Broadway show in New York City, and soon to fly commercially in Canada. And this is coming to the United States, because Miss Wen, she got on NBC and she was talking about all this stuff, and she's, one of those junior analysts or whatever, World Economic Forum, whatever she is. Though mandates were expected for cruises and international travel, the pace and scope of activities that they now cover, from booking group tours to staying in hotels, has surprised industry experts. No, it didn't. They knew this was coming. They knew this was coming because we knew this was coming. We were talking about this 2 years ago at least. Because we were reading stuff like, ID 2020 and partners to launch biometric ID with vaccines. And that was September 2019. I can pull that article up. If anybody would like to see that, but I'm not going to go through the trouble of pulling it up right now. But if you type in what I just said, it'll probably be the first one. It has been interesting to watch the striking acceleration of vaccine mandates, said Henry Nelson, founder of healthcare law firm Nelson Hardiman. Yes, on a grand scale, papers, please, except no longer it's papers, it's digital identity, please. Oh, wait, we already have that because we got you on camera way back there. And we identified you using, something that you can't talk about on this platform, but I will probably get into a little bit after, the graphene oxide. Oh, look, I said it. Big deal. Take my video down. Did you guys see the picture with Greta Thunberg covered in the black goo? I'm sure they say that it is probably reminiscent to oil, but it looks like black goo, and that's, the graphene oxide and all that stuff. And it's actually kind of funny what they do. Actually, let me interrupt before I keep reading this through. Let me actually interrupt myself, and I want to show you something funny. Look how funny this is whenever you pull this up. The first thing you get, you can see I clicked on that one, and I'm going to be pulling that up, actually. It was in, I was going to read through it a little bit today. See, they have the National Library of Medicine links first, and then right under it, no evidence graphene oxide is present in, and you can read that right there. But they literally have it right here in the National Library of Medicine. So they're putting it on the front page. That's all you got to type in. That's the first thing that comes up. The National Library of Medicine. I just thought it was kind of funny because usually these guys are all first, and all this, and you read all the way down, and then eventually you get to here. But even with this, people are still going to have their head in the sand. In the sand, back around, up their bum, and then back in the sand. That's how deep it is. So, I don't know. I just thought this was pretty funny because, it's proof, and right there is proof. You can show anybody. If they say, they don't put that in the shot, show them this. That's all you gotta type in, what I got typed in up here. Graphene oxide vaccines. Alright. Alright, I'm sure you guys enjoyed that, seeing, how easy it is now to go and look this stuff up. And they just give it to you now, really, which is crazy because people still aren't getting it. I see people still wearing masks. Still listening to the governor in their state. Still listening to any of them. Okay, so he said that while the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's full approval of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine last month has prompted some mandates, they're also being driven by increasingly supportive public opinion of the vaccinated majority. Oh, so you know how democracy works. The majority rules. The majority will always overrule the minority. 51% of people vote to have your rights taken away. Guess what? Your rights get taken away. And then there's after you, but that's the way it works. That's why this country is supposed to be a constitutional republic, where we have individual rights, and individuals can choose to be part of a collective, but they don't have to because individual rights. In the United States, every single person. But, corporate conglomerates merged with government, merged with whoever else, the scientific and medical industries now are all one, so things like this are going on. This is the biggest form of tyranny ever. Ever. And people are arguing for it. Which, of course, goes back to how they said long ago that they will make people beg for the New World Order. And everybody always wondered how that was going to be done. And now we're watching it play out. Real time. My heart breaks for people in the coming months and over the winter and into next summer and whatnot. I'm not even going to go on about that because that's a whole different story. Okay, so they go down here and they try to explain it away. So, ruled over by the majority of people, you see them in comment sections, they're on there and they're saying, oh, you need to go and get injected with some nanoparticles, and then that's cool. Yep, to go get a bite. And pretty soon you won't even be able to use drive-thrus or anything or get food delivered to your house because delivery people aren't going to want to come to your house if you're not vaccinated. If you don't take this thing that we have ready for you, that we've had ready for a while, then we're just not going to feed you or house you. It'll eventually come to that too if people rent. Your landlords will be like, we don't want unvaccinated people living here. And it all leads to the mark of the beast. And I'm still trying to find, I haven't looked for this specific thing. I was waiting for Frank to send it to me, the thing where the Pope was talking about openly deceiving us into accepting the mark of the beast. So, I don't know. Okay, are they legal? Yes, said Lawrence O. Gostin, professor at Georgetown Law and faculty director of the O'Neill Institute for National and Global Health Law. Big deal. Quote, businesses have full power to require reasonable safety standards for customers. He told CNBC, just as many businesses have required masking, they could also ask for proof of vaccination. Okay, technically, yes. But think about backwards this is because the thing that they're giving out isn't even any kind of safety protocol. This is how they sold it to the people right here under the guise of safety, of course, because that's how it always happens. It's never, under its real intentions. Never, ever foist it onto people under its real intentions. Always for safety. Anyway, just as many businesses have required masking, they could also have proof of vaccination. Yes, they can, but in some states, in my home state actually, they can't deny you for food and water and things of that nature. They could recommend it, but they can't deny you your basic needs to survive. And how about that? Denying you the 51% of people want to deny 49% of people the right to survive. They want to starve you out and kill you out so you don't take the thing they want you to take because they're afraid that you're going to do that to them, but they're willingly doing that to you. You see how that works? So with the help of the majority in democracies, governments can topple basically half the population. Because all they need is the other half, the population's consent. And they're good to go to enforce anything they want to. Because that's the way, oppressive governments have always worked. So they use the majority to do anything they want against the minority of people, so the 49% of people. And then after they're dealt with and subjugated, then they do the same thing to the 51% of people. But in this case, it's like, we don't know, because many people took that thing months ago. A lot of terrible, terrible things have happened since that started. And they have the nerve to say that it's because of us. But there's only one thing that changed from last year to this year. Last year, everything was pretty much fine. All of 2020. Out in your everyday life. Not talking about on the news. Not talking about on social media. People getting all worked up in emotions. No. Talking about real life. Out talking to people. Nobody was talking about, oh, my friend, or it was always, my uncle's, cousin's, niece's friend's grandfather knows his friend's son that died, whatever. But now there's people that I actually know of personally after, doing a certain thing that they weren't supposed to do. And this is also very backwards, and this is the great psychosis, the great, psychological totalitarian state. Just as all the philosophers have talked about forever. And they went on and on and on about it. A great state, a one world state for the entire world. Where the scientific rulers can rule over everybody because they are smarter than everybody, because they deserve to conquer over their fellow men that are beneath them. Because they are the intellectual elite. That's how they like to see it. But we are the numbers, and then we can just end their little game anytime. Nobody obeys, nobody rules. Think about all the people enforcing this stuff in businesses and all over the place. Yeah. For some high-risk businesses, such as cruise lines and hotels, it is very much in their economic interest to make their customers feel safe and secure. They have every right to do so, said Gostin. Yes, feel safe and secure. Yeah, what are we going to do? Are we safe yet? Are we secure? I heard a thing on the radio the other day talking about, are we safe 20 years after 9/11? The totalitarian state is terrible. Similarly, President Biden, who oversees federal properties, could require proof of vaccination for entry to national parks and federal buildings. Nelson agrees, adding there is a long history of courts upholding the vaccine mandates, though those have mostly been in the context of school requirements. Quote, I expect that for the most part, the vaccine mandates will stand up, he said. Of course they were. And then they go on to talk about exemptions. And then they go into how, they're going to be, how would they combat exemptions and this and that, but they're lying to you in this article and omitting plenty of things. There are many exemptions that you can do and that you should do. But we won't go into this much more. All you need to know is that they're saying it's legal. They're putting it on all around us. They are setting everything up. They're still, doing military drills throughout the United States. There was a military crash in Texas, I believe, and then a military plane landed on a highway in California or something. I'm not sure about that. Moving on. Alright, here we are at NBC again. Senate Republicans block bill to avert government shutdown and to extend debt limit. Alright. Republicans said they intend to block the bill because they want Democrats to raise the debt limit separately on a party line basis. The Senate failed on Monday to pass a key procedural vote to advance the House-passed short-term government funding bill as the deadline to avert a shutdown looms at the end of the week. And I want people to know that this literally is this doesn't even matter. They do this to give the illusion that something is being done and people are debating, which they are not. All they are doing right now is prolonging the system. It's been like this actually for a while. And every couple years or every whatever, we get to a point where they're like, oh, the government's going to shut down if we don't raise the debt ceiling. Because if you allow the debt to cap without raising the debt ceiling and borrowing more money from the Federal Reserve, then the U.S. is forced to default on all of its loans. Which means that there is complete economic meltdown overnight. Because the Federal Reserve will then be forced to, come in and take everything. That's the way it was set up. That's the reason for the Federal Reserve. That's why they established a debt-based currency. And they do this because they need to know if they need to extend it or just to let it fall because the masters have got it all figured out, everything's in place. All this back and forth stuff is just to keep people arguing over matters of no real importance, as always. The Senate voted 48-50 on the procedural motion, with Republicans opposing the stopgap measure because it included an extension of debt ceiling. Republicans said they were unwilling to support the debt limit increase and are demanding that Democrats take the political heat for the vote. Yeah, so Hegelian dialectic. And they make if they say Republicans bad and they're in opposition and Democrats good right now, and it's the way that it's always set up. Problem, reaction, solution. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Benefit the left at the expense of the right. That's the way it's been done now for a while. And with that, we are all lumped in the right side, unfortunately. And what the right and left side don't understand, the people, I'm not talking about the politicians or the, whoever owns them and this and that. I'm talking about the people like us. They don't understand that both are on the left side of the actual spectrum. I've tried to have this conversation with, quote, right-siders. Or Republicans or conservatives or whoever. The actual spectrum has to be two extremes, like any extreme, like any scale. On the left, you have complete and total government control over man. On the right, you have complete absence of any control at all. And in the middle is what we are supposed to be, which is limited government, constitutional government, individual rights, maximum freedom, limited government, limited government. But both sides today, the people, I'm still talking about the people, they both want bigger government. And they say they don't, both sides say they don't. But we've seen instances where the right side, when there were troops on the street that were not only pummeling, quote, protesters or rioters or whoever, insurgents, whatever they called them, I don't know, useful idiots. The right side was like, that's good, we like that, go get them, boys. So you're for, the government coming on the street and kicking the shit out of its own citizens. Human beings, with feelings and families and stuff. Cool. Same with the left side. Anytime there's a right side protest, the left side wants the police to come in and pepper spray and beat them. But what really should be happening is the left and the right side should get over themselves and join the rest of us. Actually, go look at how many people vote. It's a lot, but it's not everybody. There's actually a decent amount of people, even if you exclude the children who can't vote, or, there's a lot of people that don't go along with that system. If you vote, you are giving consent. You are giving consent for them and their system to rule over your life. If you don't vote, you're not taking part in that. And you are not signing that contract or whatever you're doing, partaking in. Get over yourselves. Join the rest of us. Help us combat the, instead of fighting each other like a bunch of imbeciles, join the rest of us and help us combat the actual threats that are, staring us all in the face. And then look how it goes on, Schumer. It's one of the most reckless, one of the most irresponsible votes I've seen taken in the Senate. And it should send a signal to every family, small business, market watcher about who in this chamber is in favor of endangering the economic stability of our country, said Schumer on the Senate floor following the vote. Nobody cares about economic stability because, it's all debt-based. If you try to explain this to somebody, they'll look at you just like with dead eyes. Just dead eyes. It's debt-based. That means you owe somebody money. It's not yours. So your property's not yours if you bought it with the debt-based notes. So this is all literally just crap right here. But basically it goes to show, that's why I brought this up, was to explain that it doesn't matter if they raise the debt ceiling or if they kick the can down the road a little bit longer, because that's exactly what they're doing here. And they'll raise the debt ceiling again, and then we'll come back to it at a later time. But not too late, because, we got to get this running all over again, get people all up in a frenzy. Also serves as a good distraction because none of this stuff matters anymore, because the executive branch and the corporate conglomerates now own the people. Just as Thomas Jefferson said. He said if you allow central banks, them and the corporations that grow up around them will deprive the people of every liberty, all the land, all the resources, all the freedom. And he was right. And these are just a bunch of clowns that get paid to do nothing, literally do nothing. Moving on. Alright, here we are over at Axios. Union. Dozens of Massachusetts state troopers have resigned over vaccine mandate. This is also as intended. They knew this was going to happen, in addition to the nurses, in addition to anybody else who quits, whether you're in food service or the medical industry, even the garbage industry, it don't matter. They knew that people were going to refuse. They wanted to get rid of the, quote, American way of policing anyway, to make room for the United Nations and New World way of policing. So this kind of just worked out in their favor. Massachusetts has seen dozens of state troopers submit resignations following a masking mandate for state employees, said State Police Association President Michael Chervin wrote in a statement Monday. The big picture. For those who resign, some plan to return to work in other departments that offer reasonable alternatives, such as mask-wearing requirements and regular testing, Chervin wrote. The union represents some 1,800 officers. That's a lot. He added that the strict mandate would further exacerbate staffing shortages. Yes, there already are staffing shortages because they knew that if they gave everybody a lump sum of comfortable money and benefits, then people would keep their mouths shut, sit on the couch, do nothing while they take over the world. I don't know how many times you even have to bring up quotes about depopulation, which I have something, actually, 46 quotes from world leaders and people like that about depopulation. Maybe I'll bring that up in this video, actually. It doesn't matter. People will not see it. And I always refer to the Mark Twain quote. He said, "A mountain of evidence makes no difference to a fool." And that has stuck with me for a long time. And I believe that. Everywhere you see is hiring, hiring, hiring. I see it every day. They're trying to intentionally collapse the economy. What better way to do it than to fire and lay off a whole bunch of people at the beginning of this? The first thing they did. A lot of people had to stay at home. Stay home, save lives. It ain't been that long, people. It ain't been that long at all. We're what? 19 months into this? And it's funny because Bill Gates and so many other people came out before this and was like, eventually we're going to have some passports, like a certificate that people can show to see who's a recovered person, who's a vaccinated person, what have you. Yeah, they talked about it a lot. And 18 months. Actually, we were all reporting on that. Well, I officially was reporting on it January 22nd of 2021, because that's when I started this channel. But before then, people were reporting on that. Oh, in 18 months, look out for vaccine mandates. Yo, you're a conspiracy theorist. You don't know what you're talking about, man. You're crazy. Go back and do something. Ha ha ha, I'm gonna attack you. Because that's what I defer to in any argument. I just attack you personally. You suck. It's crazy, I'm telling you. Everything's crazy out there. About 20% of state police employees remain unvaccinated. State employees are required to get the shot by October 17th to risk losing their jobs. Exemptions to the mandate are available for those with medical or religious reasons. And they filed a lawsuit to delay the mandate, which a federal judge rejected. Of course he did. He's a federal judge and they're always bought out. Come on. This kind of worked out in their favor, and they're going to do this in other places. And Massachusetts just happens to be the place where, troops are also riding around in school buses. So now they're going to need to call in the National Guard and other people, just like they're doing in New York City as well, to fill certain positions, like policing, for instance. Oh, yeah. Anybody who's left because they're banking on more than half the people quitting that are actually, serious about this, and whether they know or not what it actually is, the thing remains to be seen. But the fact that they don't want to do this means they're uncomfortable, same as all the healthcare workers. Why do you think that so many are refusing? Because they see it firsthand, remember? They're on the front lines. At least that's what we were all told. So, yes, dozens of state troopers in Massachusetts are resigning over a vaccine mandate. And this is only going to continue to excel. This is only going to just keep getting worse and worse until we do something about it. And people aren't ready, honestly. To this day, people are not ready to do anything about anything. As long as people could still go and, watch TV and grill their steaks and take part in society, and that's all they want, just peace of mind, and they'll give anything to get it. Yeah. Until those people are ready to go, we're not ready to go. Some of us are, spiritually, mentally, and, physically, for the most part. Moving on. Okay, here we go. I wanted to bring this up again, of course, to maybe try to sway people in the right direction. If you still believe that the Great Reset is not an actual thing. I know they tag my videos with the whole, and that's another good one. If you look under the blue box, like in the video, I'll actually put Great Reset in the title, because then, it'll bring it up. It says the Great Reset is the name of the World Economic Forum 50th Davos meeting. That's what it says. That it's the name of the meeting. Not the theme, the name. Well, I got a whole book that says otherwise, was my first response to that. So, Great Reset is not a conspiracy theory. And this whole Build Back Better thing, I'm seeing Facebook pages, I'm seeing people on the news, I'm seeing people in everyday life, they're saying, oh, we need to build back better. Not knowing that this came from those high-level meetings that we read about recently, if you've been following me for any length of time. The high-level meetings with BlackRock and all of those banks, and England, and the Bank of London, and, the Vatican, all that, we went over this. The Great Reset has been trending on Twitter. Once you're familiar with what it means for the future of our civilization, you'll understand why. Put simply, it's the blueprint for a complete transformation of the world economy. There will be no money, no private property, no democracy. Instead, every key decision, what you do for a living, how much stuff you consume, whether you can take a vacation, will be decided for you by remote, unaccountable elite of, quote, experts. Experts said. Experts said. It sounds like a conspiracy theory, and it's often dismissed as such by people who imagine they are being savvy and sophisticated. Ain't that the truth? People who think that they are being savvy and sophisticated. In fact, though, the people pushing for the Great Reset are perfectly open about their plan. Indeed, they can scarcely stop talking about it. One of these people was Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. It was a video of Trudeau talking about the Great Reset, which prompted the flurry of nervous interest on social media. And we've all seen that video of him back in November talking about the Great Reset. Pretty much said the same thing Klaus Schwab did. Trudeau says, quote, building back better means giving support to the most vulnerable while maintaining our momentum on reaching the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And the SDGs, Canada is here to listen and to help. This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine our economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change. So Canada, if you didn't already know, I'm sorry to tell you, your Prime Minister has sold out to the New World Order. And this is it right here, the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. People say, well, that's a non-binding agreement. Went over it a long time ago. If you're here and you're new and you want to know anything about that, refer to all of my older videos. I have a backup channel with a bunch of videos, actually, probably as many as here. Because for a length of time I was posting on there during when a lot happened when I was posting on there. And I left this one alone for a couple months, actually, because it was up for termination. And no, I only got one strike, I believe, or no. I got one warning on this channel now, so we're good to go. We can get hit twice. It sounds innocuous enough, the kind of meaningless garbage you'd expect to come from Trudeau. But in fact, there is deeper meaning behind the phrases he uses. Building back better, 2030 Agenda, Sustainable Development, and the SDGs, and reset are all buzzwords for the complete transformation of the global economy in order to create a new world order. Yes. Nailed it. They talk about the new world order openly now. People say, oh, I remember back when they were talking about that and it never happened. It was happening and is still, but now it's on steroids plus whatever else you could take. They're in your face with it right now. Literally telling you that they're creating a new world order. On television. Build Back Better is a slogan of the Great Reset, and the man who invented it, Klaus Schwab. Schwab is a bald German in his early 80s with a strong accent and the sinister air of James Bond villain who in the 1970s founded what is now known as the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum holds the annual summit at Davos in Switzerland where, it has been said, billionaires go to lecture millionaires on how ordinary people live. That's odd. How do they know how we live? These people were bred into richness. They were born into wealth. They were born into all of it. None of us could ever get that rich. Up until recently, Davos has probably seemed like a harmless event, a sort of an annual joke in which we all get to laugh at the absurd spectacle of the 1% of the 1% turning up in their private jets and limousines to expound on the importance of sustainability and saving the planet. Another thing that they, foist on us about all this is you're consuming too much, you're taking up too much carbon, and your emissions are catastrophic for the environment. But they fly around all day in their private jets. And for some reason, when you even try to explain that simple fact to people, they just glaze over. And they're just not interested anymore. That's part of what, they've done with, the CIA and all the mind control programs during the 70s and 80s. And the trials in the 90s and, continues to this day. But the events of 2020 have changed all that because C-19 has provided the perfect pretext for the kind of coordinated globalist takeover which might previously have been little more than evil glint in Klaus Schwab's eyes. By Schwab's own admission, the world must act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies. In short, he says every industry must be transformed. We need a great reset of capitalism. In a warning of the roller coaster of change we can expect if this plan goes ahead, Schwab continues, quote, the level of cooperation and ambition this implies is unprecedented, but it's not some impossible dream. In fact, one silver lining of the pandemic is that it has shown how quickly we can make radical changes to our lifestyles. Almost instantly, the crisis forced businesses and individuals to abandon practices long claimed to be essential, from frequent air travel to working in an office. Let's see, that kind of reminds me of Event 201, when that guy was talking about, it can happen quickly, a radical, or a Marshall-type plan, and, stimulate radical change very quickly. They literally told us all of this as they were doing it and still doing it, and it amazes me, blows me away. Absolutely blows me out of the water that people cannot see what is so plain in your face. It's as plain as the nose on your face. It's as plain as your kid's double cheeseburger he gets from McDonald's if you ever go there. Because kids like plain stuff. As the World Economic Forum puts it, of the coming technocracy that would rule over our lives, Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. That's another thing you show people. And they're like, no, you see, well, this fact checker told me that wasn't real. If a fact checker told you to jump off a bridge because you won't die, and it's a myth that you'll die, would you do it? Oh, they would never do that. Oh, so it's about trust. It's not about their credibility or accountability. It's about your blind trust in some person you've never met. That works for some person you've never met. That works for some person you've never met. That is connected to so many people that you've never met, that you will never know, but they know you, and they don't like you very much. And I want to know about this world where you own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. How? Life has never been better. I own nothing. I don't have any privacy at all. But life is great. Everything's taken care of. I'm constantly fed and changed and burped and put in bed and covered up with a blankie and a binky. I can't believe this. People are so apathetic that they just don't care about anything that's happening to the world or anyone else until it comes down to them individually. And by that point, it's usually way too late. There's nothing new about the Great Reset. Schwab and his acolytes have been talking about it for years. Chinese or rather the draconian liberty sapping measures taken by governments in order to combat it, has merely accelerated the process. And originally it was, of course, nothing. And that whole story with the lab and that's just to get you on the wrong track. Not saying that people aren't sick now, because I believe they are, but it's not from, not from that. And Schwab has written several books about his master plan. His latest, called C-19 Great Reset, makes no bones about the fact that the chaos of the C situation represents the perfect opportunity to accelerate the entire world toward a new normal. New normal is code for New World Order. That is what I wrote on Facebook back in January of 2020. When they were talking about this. And I recently just posted it again, so people like where I live, I went to school with, they'll see it and hopefully, start taking things a lot seriously. A couple people have came around, they're like, wow, dude, you've been right and this and that. Like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, every time. I don't need your apology. I don't need your anything. I just need you to do what you need to do to prepare for this. That is how you can help me. By doing right for yourself. That is my job in this world. And I discovered it long ago. That is my reason for being here. And it is to tell people about the coming storm. But not the storm that the Q-tards refer to. No. The actual storm. The actual storm that Donald Trump was referring to be honest. Not the storm that they think it is. This is from the book, Great Reset. I have it, and this is like the third paragraph in it. At the time of writing, June 2020, the pandemic continues to worsen globally. Many of us are pondering when things will return to normal. Short response is never. Nothing will ever return to the broken sense of normalcy that prevailed prior to the crisis, because the situation marks a fundamental inflection point in our global trajectory. I refer to that quote all the time. Klaus Schwab put it plain as day. Many are pondering when things will return to normal. The short response is never. Now you better find God while you still can. Because pretty soon, as the Bible says, you will seek death and you will not find it. Okay, as far as your new globalist overlords are concerned, you are never going to get your old life back. Get out of here. However much you might wish it. Also, be clear, this is being done for your own good because your old way of life was based on a broken model. Yes, the old one that they had created for us. The post-World War II era. The destruction of our actual, societies. We would have went a totally different way if these people had not gotten their sticky little fingers within our way of life. We would still have all of these great things and even greater things. The amount of stuff that they have suppressed over the years on record, we would have so many, starting with Nikola Tesla. If we had his technology, nobody would ever have to go without any kind of electricity or anything like that ever again. And it's 100% based on nature and natural frequencies. But these people wanted to go a different route and offer you oil. So that happened. And everything that comes with that. But now they want to destroy that world that they created for us, especially the post-World War II era, because they even said when they created the United Nations and, created Israel shortly thereafter, they even said that this will be their current trajectory toward the New World Order until they have achieved it. And they were so confident in the 90s, 80s and 90s, that George Bush Sr. would talk about it all the time. Okay, such is the author's conviction that the new normal is what we need and should want. He scarcely bothers to pretend that is anything other than a handy pretext. Unlike certain past situations, C-19 doesn't pose a new existential threat. Schwab is clear in his book that situation is not much a crisis as an opportunity to be exploited. A chance to accelerate the birth of the New World Order he calls the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And I'm actually going to start reading that because somebody sent that to me in an email a while ago and I still have it. The whole book. I actually might go through it on here and just dedicate however many videos it takes to read the whole thing. I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know what kind of videos I'm going to be putting out. Unless they're ones that I have planned for a while from now. Because I do have one planned for the next month or two that I'm still working on getting stuff for. But we know about the Fourth Industrial Revolution. We know about the artificial intelligence. We know about the Internet of Bodies. We know about, the Internet of Things. That was the, big one probably even up to 20 years ago. People were talking about the Internet of Things. Now we're talking about the Internet of Bodies. And I'm sure after that it will be the Internet of Minds. They're already messing with the kind of technology that is very catastrophic if anybody has access to any of that technology. Human beings, being the creatures that we are, and the, paths that we take and actions that we choose to do, and ways that we choose to think, and how we are a destructive species, we are a suicidal species, we are a warring species. No man should ever have access to the kind of technology that they have access to. Radical changes of such consequence are coming, that some pundits have referred to a before situation and after situation era. We will continue to be surprised by both the rapidity and unexpected nature of these changes, as they conflate with each other. They will provoke second, third, fourth, and more order consequences, cascading effects, and unforeseen outcomes. That's from the book. So they already have it labeled, before and then after, and we all know that. Things are so much different now than when this first started. Things are so different now. Everything has been flipped and turned upside down. And we only have ourselves to blame, really. But something can still be done, that's the thing. We just have to act quickly. And we need the majority of the population, which we don't have. I wish we did, All of this stuff would, of course, be mere pie in the sky if it were just a sinister-looking bald guy with a passing resemblance to Blofeld saying it. Unfortunately, lots of people of influence around the world take this stuff very seriously. That's why Joe Biden used Build Back Better as his campaign slogan. It's why the UK Conservatives feature the website on their Twitter page, and why UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson inserts the phrase into his speeches. In fact, as I reported in May, it's a phrase you find being used by all manner of institutions. My piece was titled Building Back Better, the latest code phrase for green global tyranny. Same thing as the Green New Deal and the climate change. It's all about taking control of the world's resources. They are the ones who geoengineer. They are the ones who create the climate catastrophes, intensify volcanoes, hurricanes, earthquakes. And they do it with frequencies and waves. This is very, very old technology now. They were doing weather modification back during Kennedy. Hardly anyone was interested back then. Maybe more people will be now that they start to realize that while these global reset guys may sound like kooks, they're in fact deadly serious. Sure, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but as someone wise once said, it's not a conspiracy theory when they tell you exactly what they're doing. And that's the truth. They do. They tell you exactly what they're doing. And they haven't stopped. For some reason, people just don't want to see that. I don't know what to say, honestly. I really don't know what to say. Let me see if I got something else for you guys. Alright, now, this is from a couple days ago. Cause and effect. Technocracy directly linked to medical tyranny. The writer, Thomas Knapp, is director and senior news analyst at the William Lloyd Garrison Center for Libertarian Advocacy Journalism. He is spot on to see the so-called situation as a direct outcome of technocracy and concludes the technocrats exercise their power abusively and ineffectually to boot. It's time to take that power away. This echoes a statement written by a broadcaster who interviewed me on April 7, 2020. The podcast title was Patrick Wood, Technocracy, Climate Change, and C-19. Wood shatters the false narrative of a promised utopia and exposes the true nature of the deception used to promote this new economic order. Those elite who hate the bedrock of American liberty and its time-tested Constitution have pulled out all the stops to destroy both. And it's time for citizens to stand up to reject them. As always, Wood closes with nature of effective resistance and the tools that can help to achieve success. The following interview with Spiro Skouras was recorded July 21st, 2020. Spiro summarized social engineers have positioned themselves to capitalize upon this manufacturer crisis to implement their technocratic agenda. History is littered with social and political movements which, while failing to survive as movements, largely achieve their goals. The Prohibition Party's national conventions could take place in a phone booth these days, but its disastrous single policy proposal was adopted as a constitutional amendment, mutated into the equally disastrous war on drugs, and continues to torment the modern marketplace with draconian regulation. Most socialist parties have either disappeared into the dustbin of history or find themselves reduced to glorified supper clubs featuring loud arguments over whether the Soviet Union was a bureaucratic deformation or a degenerated worker state. But Socialist Party candidate Norman Thomas' 885,000 votes in the 1932 presidential election arguably led to FDR's New Deal and the modern welfare state. And I'm sure it did. I'm sure it led right into that. Few people remember or ever learn about the Technocracy movement of the 1930s. That movement failed in its formal goal of replacing democratic legislatures with boards of experts to run society, including the economy, in accordance with science. But over time, the concept took root in America's regulatory apparatus. Nearly every aspect of our lives has, for several decades, been subject to scrutiny and oversight by, well, it didn't say, actually. Doesn't say by who. That's weird. Well, I'll be. Maybe they accidentally deleted it when they put the link in. What might it be? Let's see. Over time, the concept took root in America's regulatory apparatus. Nearly every aspect of our lives has, for several decades, been subject to scrutiny and oversight by, well, you can fill it in, regulators, technocrats, globalists, socialists, communists, tyrants, totalitarians, you name it. You name it. But yes, obviously, technocracy is linked to medical tyranny. Because the medical avenue that they went, they saw they could do it with the swine flu thing. A couple years ago, they saw that they could do it, but the people needed to be primed a little bit more. So we would accept it as we are now. I mean, we're just in this time right now where everything is upside down. Evil is good. Good is evil. The whole nine. And most people, there are babies being born. I saw a video today. There are babies being born with just a blank stare. And her mother was like the one that posted the video. And she was like, man, these pandemic babies are different. They're just different. I mean, look at my baby. And the baby was just staring blankly off, not focusing on anything. The awareness of it was, gone. And babies are usually pretty aware of certain things. But this one was just gone. Something happened in the last 19 months. Something happened to where, obviously we're in a state of, psychosis. We're still in shock. We haven't even accepted yet that all of these things are happening. Even those of us that knew they were happening, some of us are still shocked. But it wears off and you start to see what the world truly is like. What truly is happening, and listen to these people when they tell you that they're building a new world order. But also understand that this was all written about long before that. These days were foretold to us by the Lord himself. Everything you need to know about what's going on right now, honestly, is in the Bible. Things in the Bible that wouldn't make sense even 100 years ago make sense now. I don't even know what else to say on it. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.